If a man invests rupees 15,000 at the rate of 10% per annum for 2 years, compounded annually. Find the total amount. Given P equals 15,000, N equals 2 years, R equals 10%. We have to find the total amount. I1 equals R percent of P. That is 10% of 15,000. Gives I1 is 1500. I2 equals I1 plus R percent of I1. That is 1500 plus 10% of 1500. Gives I2 is 3150. Total amount equals principal plus compound interest. That is 15,000 plus 3150. Gives 18,150. Using formula method, we get 15,000 into 1 plus 10 by 100 on the whole power 2. On solving, we get total amount is 18,150. Therefore, the total amount is rupees 18,150. If CI is rupees 2,151.5813, N is 3 years, R is 5% per annum, then find the principal amount. Given CI equals 2,151.5813, N equals 3 years, R equals 5%. Let principal be 100. I1 equals R percent of P. That is 5% of 100. Gives I1 is 5. I2 equals I1 plus R percent of I1. That is 5 plus 5% of 5. Gives I2 is 10.25. I3 equals I1 plus I2 plus R percent of I2. That is 5 plus 10.25 plus 5% of 10.25. Gives I3 is 15.7625. If 15.7625 gives 2,151.5813, then 100 gives what? Cross multiplying both sides, we get 2,151.5813 into 100 divided by 15.7625 gives 13,650. Solving by formula method, we get 2,151.5813 equals P into 1 plus 5 by 100 on the whole power 3 minus P. On solving, we get P as 13,650. Therefore, principal amount is rupees 13,650. A sum is compounded annually for 3 years at 10% per annum. If the compound interest for the third year is rupees 1105, then find the principal amount. Given CI equals 1105, N equals 3 years, R equals 10%. PB 100. I1 equals R percent of P. That is 10% of 100. Gives I1 is 10. I2 equals I1 plus R percent of I1. That is 10 plus 10% of 10. Gives I2 is 21. I3 equals I1 plus I2 plus R percent of I2. That is 10 plus 21 plus 10% of 21. Gives I3 is 33.1. If 33.1 gives 1105, then 100 gives what? Cross multiplying both sides, we get 1105 into 100 divided by 33.1 gives 3,338.36. Solving by formula method, we get 1105 equals P into 1 plus 10 by 100 on the whole power 3 minus P. On solving, we get P as 3,338.36. Therefore, principal amount is rupees 3,338.36. If P is rupees 17,000, CI is rupees 4,462.1083, R is 6% per annum, then find the time period. Given P equals 17,000, CI equals 4,462.1083, R equals 6%. We have to find the number of years. I1 equals R percent of P. That is 6% of 17,000. Gives I1 is 1020. I2 equals I1 plus R percent of I1. That is 1020 plus 6% of 1020. Gives I2 is 2101.2. I3 equals I1 plus I2 plus R percent of I2. That is 1020 plus 2101.2 plus 6% of 2101.2. Gives I3 is 3247.272. I4 equals I1 plus I3 plus R% of I3. That is 1020 plus 3247.272 plus 6% of 3247.272. Gives I4 is 4462.1083. We get rupees 4462.1083 in fourth year. So number of years is 4 years. By formula method. 4462.1083 equals 17,000 into 1 plus 6 by 100 on the whole power n minus 17,000. On solving we get n is 4 years. Therefore time period is 4 years. In a certain number of years, rupees 1000 amounted to rupees 1102.5 at the rate of 5% per annum, compounded annually. Find the time period. Given P equals 1000, A equals 1102.5, R equals 5%. We have to find the number of years. I1 equals R% of P. That is 5% of 1000. Gives I1 is 50. I2 equals I1 plus R% of I1. That is 50 plus 5% of 50. Gives I2 is 102.5. Amount equals principal plus compound interest. That is 1000 plus 102.5. Gives 1102.5. Therefore n equals 2 years. By formula method. 1102.5 equals 1000 into 1 plus 5 by 100 on the whole power n. On solving we get n is 2 years. Therefore time period is 2 years.